It's been a story dominating the news headlines politically since Wednesday, since Natalie Elphicke, the right-wing Conservative Member of Parliament for Dover, crossed the floor and appeared, much to the surprise of virtually everybody on the opposition benches, to join the Labour Party. Now, the story has rumbled on, and I'm going to go through the background in a minute. But today, the Justice Secretary, the former Conservative Justice Secretary, Robert Buckland, claimed that Natalie Elphicke lobbied him in 2020 to interfere in her husband, Charlie Elphicke's sexual assault case. Now, my question to you in this hour is, given, and I'm going to give you a lot of the evidence, if you like, just now, given what Natalie Elphicke has said about the women who accused her husband of sexual assault and in one case of rape, given all the things she said about Marcus Rashford, given all sorts of different essences of entitlement that this, I'm saying Labour now, Labour MP, former Tory MP, comes with, I think that Labour, by accepting her, has absolutely shot themselves in the foot. That's my thought. Do you agree with me? Give me a ring, 0345 6060 973, or text me on 84850. So let's just review the history, and I really do want to know what you think here. Some people are saying that actually, Keir Starmer has played a blinder by accepting her. I don't agree. Right, so Natalie Elphicke was married to Charlie Elphicke, who was the Conservative Member of Parliament for Dover. He was accused of multiple counts of sexual assault. He was convicted of 3 counts against 2 women, one of whom he chased around his house while shouting, "I'm a naughty Tory." He was convicted on those 3 counts and he was sentenced to 2 years in prison in 2020. There was also a case of a young female parliamentary aide, let's call her Jane, who accused him of rape. She went to the police at the time. This was in 2017, I believe, but detectives didn't pursue her case. She then shared her story with the Sunday Times in 2018. Charlie Elphicke then launched libel proceedings against that newspaper. But during his trial, and he was never tried for this allegation, he claimed that, let's call her Jane, and he had had a consensual affair and he had sexual contact with her. In 2022, he dropped his libel case against the Sunday Times, but still denies Jane's allegations of rape. So bearing in mind there were 3 women, including this lady, Jane, not her real name. Before he was convicted, what did Natalie Elphicke do? Well, she attacked proactively not only the women who'd accused her husband of rape and sexual assault, but also the entire group of women who were complaining back in the time of the Me Too movement to expose the culture of sexual misconduct in Westminster. And we have seen case after case, haven't we, come forward, and MPs of all parties, actually, but mainly Conservative, being suspended. After he was convicted, Natalie Elphicke wrote, and in my opinion, it's quite horrendous, "Charlie is charming, wealthy, charismatic, successful, attractive and attracted to women. All things that in today's climate made him an easy target for dirty politics and false allegations." Now, I find it quite extraordinary that any woman, whether the wife of somebody who's been accused, and I understand that this is quite common or not, would say these things about people who've been sexually assaulted. Basically what she was saying, my husband's been telling the truth and they're lying. She has since apologised for that. At one point, however, she complained that one of the victims should have contacted her as the abuser's wife instead of going to the police. I mean, what kind of person even thinks all of those things, let alone says it? So she, and I'm going to go on about this. My question to you is, and I'm reading all of this out, maybe I won't go into all of the detail, but I fundamentally, if we have a new government this year, I want a clean-up of politics. I want to think that there is real change coming, not tweaks to policies. I want a fundamental switch to decent people and decent politics from the disgusting cronyism and the immorality which is so rampant in the Conservative Party and in its progressive various governments through the years. So I want you to ring in. Do you agree with me? I think Labour has shot itself in the foot. I am absolutely fuming about it. Give me a ring, 0345 6060 973. Ring me if you agree with me. Particularly ring me if you disagree with me and you think it was good for Labour to take Natalie Elphicke as a Tory defector. Text me or WhatsApp me on 84850. I really want to know what you think. We're coming to the lines in just a moment. So it's easy, obviously, to criticise the Tories. The party probably seen as the most corrupt and sleazy in modern history. Is Keir Starmer taking the wrong decisions? It should now be, really, given all that we know, Partygate, the VIP, it's endless, isn't it? Frank Hester, it's endless, rolling on. It should be, surely, for Labour, like shooting fish in a barrel. Does Keir Starmer need more confidence? Well, it was interesting. Labour MP for Birmingham Yardley, Jess Phillips, who we all know, spoke to my colleague Lewis Goodall on this question. She called for an independent investigation into Robert Buckland's claims about Natalie Elphicke. She had this to say earlier.
As I've said from the beginning, I think that there are questions to answer. What I find absolutely galling about the whole thing, I have to say, in light of the stuff that has come out this morning, is, and I have found this my entire career, is that people tend to only care when it's the other side that do it. And you have to try and care regardless. And the Robert Buckland coming out now with these claims, which I have absolutely no idea of the veracity of, does somewhat suggest that he cared considerably less about A, the rule of law, B, victims of sexual violence, when it wasn't politically expedient for him.
And that's a very good question, isn't it? If what Robert Buckland is saying is true, then why wasn't he saying it 4 years ago? I think it's pretty obvious. He just wants to cause trouble. But whatever that story is, even 4 days ago, when she crossed the floor on Wednesday, it was absolutely gobsmacking to a lot of the Labour backbenchers, and I think probably to some on the front bench as well. And, it leaves question marks, I think, not only in Keir Starmer's judgment, but also in, who is Labour? The former Justice Secretary at the time of Charlie Elphicke, Natalie Elphicke's husband's sexual assault case. He was convicted on 3 counts and sent to jail for 2 years. He's come out and said that Natalie Elphicke tried to intervene in the judicial process. She has denied that. My question is, the mess that's surrounding all of this defection, I think Labour have shot themselves in the foot, given Natalie Elphicke's history. Do you? Do you agree with me, or do you think he's played a blinder? Do you think that Keir Starmer is doing the right thing? Loads of messages. John from Leicester says, Buckland was one of the few Tories I could stomach, but not now. How he thought there was no issue when Elphicke was a Tory, but now she's with Labour, there is an issue. It's utter hypocrisy. A do as I say, not as I do attitude. As for Elphicke, I really don't care as long as she doesn't direct Labour policy. A lot of people disagreeing with me. I'm fuming about it. Lots aren't. Do ring in either way. Annabelle from Beverley says, Carol, I think you'll find that most people don't actually care either way. Starmer, Labour don't have any substance or plans. The Conservatives are clueless with Sunak at the helm, or rather not at the helm. Reform aren't established enough to get a foothold with middle floating voters. Whoever gets into number 10, the country will still be in the state it already is. Do you agree with Annabelle from Beverley? Do you agree with John from Leicester? Ring me on 0345 6060 973. I'm going back to Scott in Norwich. You had problems with your phone line earlier, Scott. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Scott. Now, were you, or are you, a Labour supporter, naturally?
No, I wasn't.
Yeah.
I'm not. But I was considering voting tactically for Labour.
Yeah.
But this has changed my mind.
Has it really? Why is that?
Because, one, I understand the politics, having especially right-wing, conservative, defecting, over immigration, especially, is obviously very good optics politically. Looks great for Labour, looks terrible for the Conservatives. But I think it is exposed who Keir Starmer and the Labour Party he has created is, which is there is no ideology, there is no plan, there is just we're going to win, and if we have to accept the right-wing votes in order to win, we're going to do so. And I think that's unacceptable, because how can you be a Labour Party, supposed to be centre-left, accepting someone who's, I would call, at the very least, right-wing?
Yes.
I think that seriously calls into question his judgment. Obviously, I'm not saying he's going to lose the election because of this. That's
no, I know you're not
happen.
saying that. This is about our opinions, though, isn't it, Scott? That's yes. The point. And I'm with you on this. And, I'm all for tactical voting, as you know. Step one for me is to get rid of the Conservative Party and to absolutely, reduce them to a minimum number of MPs. I've said that very openly before, so that we can have a fresh start. That's really the purpose of it. I won't go into all the other things I believe in right now, but that's really the point. We need a fresh start. And to me, this isn't it. I know she isn't standing at the general election. The Labour candidate for Dover has already been selected, and so that person will stand. But I just think it's sending out the wrong message, and obviously you agree with that. But thank you, Scott, for that. I'm going to Crawley now to talk to Alison. Hi, Alison.
Oh, hi, Carol. Hi.
What do you think?
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Well, I just, Wednesday. What did you think Wednesday when the news came out? First of all,
Wednesday initially. My initial thoughts on it are that actually the Labour Party surely is in the business of getting a load of people to vote for it whose views we might have found abhorrent, in a conversation at the pub or whatever. That is the nature of politics, and the Tories will be trying to do the same, and the Lib Dems the same, and that you're trying to persuade people over to your point of view and to vote for you. Mm-hmm. But what angle on the Natalie Elphicke thing that makes me really uncomfortable, as someone who's known very closely someone who's been in a horrific coercive control relationship, and I am not saying that's what the case is here, but I witnessed what someone I would describe as a strong, feisty woman reduced to defending a man who was cheating on her and actually physically assaulting her, but that's another case, and her children.
So you're saying Natalie Elphicke has been partially abused by her husband?
No, I'm not. I'm saying we all know, what we know is that she was publicly humiliated by her husband's behaviour, and that she seemed to defend that to what seems to be a very difficult to understand level for most of us. And I would just not be comfortable judging her on that without knowing a lot more about it, which I don't. And, maybe if I did, I would judge her on it, but I don't. So I'm just uncomfortable as a woman judging another woman on how she behaved to being publicly humiliated by her husband.
Well, I think that's a really interesting point, because Jess Phillips would agree with you on that. She said this morning when she was speaking to Lewis Goodall, we don't have the clip, but that obviously Jess Phillips deals with a lot of domestic abuse cases, and we're not suggesting that was what was happening with the Elphicks. Now, I understand that, but she said that it is normal for a wife or a partner or the victim to, at first, defend the abuser, which is exactly what you're saying, Alison.
And we all think we wouldn't. All I can say is, having seen it up close with someone I knew very well, if you'd known this girl as well, you would think not in a million years would she allow a man to do that to her.
Yeah.
But she did.
So
horrific,
you weren't...
so.
See, I see where you're coming from. I genuinely, I do. But I just think, she said these things after he had been convicted. And also, I don't know, it's my gut feeling, this whole thing that the Tories have said, Robert Buckland has said, I mean, she's saying it's not true, it's the Conservative version of it, and obviously they're out now to cause maximum damage. Yeah. And there are all sorts of issues related to, why didn't Robert Buckland say all this 4 years ago if he was so outraged? Well, we know why, don't we, Alison?
Because he wasn't outraged because she was one of his.
Yeah, well, precisely, yes.
And if he had integrity in his position, he would have spoken out about it, regardless of who it was. Mm. His professional integrity required him to do that.
My gut feeling is it damaged my faith in the Labour Party. That's what happened when I saw that. Not only because of, she was in that position, and what she said about the women, but she took it to another level, when he was, I believe, trying to appeal, and she was suspended from the House for a day because she encouraged other Tory MPs as herself to write on House of Commons parliamentary paper, which broke some code or other with the Standards Committee. And then she said about Marcus Rashford, and she criticised him, and she vote, and her vote. She is a right-wing MP, and I do,
but we need a lot of people who've expressed views like that in dinner parties, in the pub, and wherever. We need to persuade people like that, and it may be uncomfortable, but actually, it's about little steps, isn't it? So you need to say, you used to think this, but. Do you really think that's going well? Now, people don't just switch lock, stock and barrel overnight, do they, their views? It's about...
No, I do understand that. But I think what it is for me, Alison, is that I want this new beginning. I really, could pray for this new beginning because things are so appalling. And this wasn't saying to me, here is a new beginning. And others, like yourself, can argue, and doing so very well, that actually it needs to be a broader church than people like me. Which I understand. But,
I used to love the... Do you remember in the Bridget Jones film where Bridget Jones is explaining at a dinner party, well, you just have to go with, the broad... No one's going to agree with everything. You have to sort of go with the people you think are travelling broadly in the right direction and sort of support the team. And politics isn't exact. And if we get into too much detail like that, there are red lines. Of course there are red lines. But I don't think, for me, and everyone must make their own mind up, I don't think for me that we are looking at Keir Starmer as a man who has, not got a moral compass in the way that we were concerned about, Boris Johnson and co.
Okay.
I just don't.
Alison, thank you so much for ringing in. I really do appreciate it and all that you've said. What do you think? Has Labour been damaged? Has it damaged itself by accepting Natalie Elphicke?